Hey everyone, and welcome to Accumulated Knowledge with Noah Walker for Team Cardhoarder. Today we are going to be playing some matches with Grixis Delver, and before we go into the matches, I wanted to go over the list that I play a little bit. So here we have your standard 14 creatures, 4 Delver Secrets, the namesake of the deck. Definitely, one of the best cards. 4 Deathrite Shaman, another one of the most important cards. Just the 1-drops are so good and essential for winning a lot of games. I play 3 Young Pyromancers and 1 Vendilion Click. Some lists play 4 Young Pyromancers, and that's really defensible. It's one of the most powerful cards in the deck. But Click has been really good for me. It's really flexible. It's really good against some of the closer matchups in Miracles, and really good against a really bad matchup, which is lands. You can get Terminus with it. You can get a Life from the Loam. So I've been really liking the one of Click. So I have that in the 4th Young Pyromancer slot. And 2 Gurmag Anglers. Gurmag Angler is not great against the combo decks, but it's the best card that you could ask for in something like the Mirror. So, those are the 14 creatures. Here we have our 12 cantrips. 4 Ponder, 4 Gitaxian Probe, 4 Brainstorm. Pretty standard. Almost every Grixis Delver list you see will have these 12 cards just because it's really important to be able to get through your deck with cards like Ponder. It's really important to shuffle away bad cards with something like Brainstorm. And Gitaxian Probe just has fantastic synergies with Young Pyromancer and some lists that play Cabal Therapy too. So these 12 are pretty much, in every single list. Along with these, we have the 4 Dazes, 4 Forcibles. That's pretty much the extent of our counter magic, aside from the one of Spell Pierce. These cards are really good because they're free. So they just help you get ahead super easily. When you're already ahead on board, like you play a Delver, maybe a Young Pyromancer, start countering all of their spells, and they're just too far behind to win. So these 8 are really important. We've got our removal suite in the 4 Lightning Bolts, one of the best cards ever. Super flexible. You can kill a creature, you can kill their face. It's just about as good as it gets with Lightning Bolt. And in my flex slots, I'm playing 2 Cabal Therapy, 1 Spell Pierce, and 1 Dismember. I'll start with the Dismember. I've been playing the Dismember for a while because it's really good against Gurmag Anglers. It's really good against Eldrazi. It kills all of their creatures, just as like a 1-for-1. And it's really good at getting around cards like Chalice of the Void, where normally you wouldn't be able to cast any of the removal spells like Lightning Bolt, but you can still cast Dismember. And it's just it's just good that it cost 1 and can kill all of the big threats like Tarmogoyf and stuff like that. So I've been really liking the Dismember. Some people play a Forked Bolt in that slot, which is also really good. So you have 1 Spell Pierce, kind of the get 'em spell. It's really hard to play around Spell Pierce against a deck that has 4 Forcibles, 4 Dazes. Some lists play Stifle. So they don't always play around the Spell Pierce, so it's really good at getting them. And the matchups where it's bad, you can board it out. But it's kind of just an extra piece of counter magic for the matchups where you'd want something like that, like really good against the combo decks, really good against just Infect and stuff. Just a great card. It's all right in the Mirror too. And then here we have the 2 Cabal Therapies. So some lists don't play Cabal Therapy in the main deck, which I understand, especially if you're not playing something like Young Pyromancer or Gitaxian Probe. But for me, Cabal Therapy has been one of the most important cards in the deck, just because there are a lot of games where you can't really, you can't really counter every single spell that they play. You only have so many counter spells. So with cards like Gitaxian Probe and Vendilion Click, being able to know their hand and then just, being able to snipe some cards in their hand, basically 1 black mana, target player discards all cards of the same, all non-land cards of the same name that you want them to discard. It's a really powerful effect. And it almost does that with something like Young Pyromancer too, because you have Young Pyromancer in play, you play Cabal Therapy, you get the 1/1 token, you sacrifice it to flashback Cabal Therapy. So let's say you hit, you don't know their hand, you play Cabal Therapy, you hit something with the first time that you cast it while you have Young Pyromancer in play, then flash it back and hit 2 more things. It's just a really, really powerful spell. Really great against the combo decks. It's okay against something like Miracles if you're on the play, where you can hit like Sensei's Divining Top or Counterbalance, 2 of their most important cards, especially against this deck. So yeah, I've been really liking the Cabal therapies. It's good against the Eldrazi decks too, because they play Cavern of Souls, so it's pretty hard to counter all their creatures all the time. So having something like Cabal Therapy, to hedge your bets for when you can't counter all of their creatures is really helpful. So that's pretty much the main deck. Pretty standard. We got your 8 blue fetch lands. I play 4 Flooded Strands and 4 Polluted Deltas, but I'm not convinced that is necessarily the best split that you could play. I think maybe 2 of each blue fetch could be the best because we play Pithing Needle in the sideboard. So, it's not really going to matter all that often. But if you know their hand with something like a Jataxian Probe and they happen to have 2 Flooded Strands as their only lands, and then you want to use Pithing Needle on it, it sucks that you have 4 in the deck. So I think that even though I've been playing 4 Flooded Strands and 4 Polluted Delta for a really long time, that it's probably best to split it up into maybe 2 of each. Then here we have the 6 lands to fetch for, 3 Volcanic Islands. I play more Volks than Seas just because Young Pyromancer is one of the most important cards in the deck. And you have to play a Tropical Island just so that you can remove creatures like against Reanimator and against Dredge with Deathrite Shaman. Gaining 2 life matters sometimes, of course, but it's really important that you can just hit creatures against, especially Reanimator. And so that's why you play the Tropical Island. So basically there's 3 lands that can cast the Deathrite Shamans. There's 3 lands that can cast the Young Pyromancers and the Bolts, and the Seas can also cast the Gurmags and stuff. And then we have one of the most important lands in the deck, which is Wasteland. The reason Wasteland is so good in this deck is because you can function off of only a couple lands, and there's so many decks in Legacy that play so many non-basic lands. So you just want to get as far ahead early game as possible, so that they have no chance to get back up. So let's say on turn 1 you play a Deathrite Shaman, and on turn 1 they play like a Volcanic Island and play a Ponder, and then you have a Wasteland. You kill their land. You can now use it with your Deathrite Shaman to give you more mana and cast more stuff to get you even further ahead. So it just synergizes really well with the deck's game plan already, getting ahead with stuff like Deathrite, Young Pyromancer, Force of Will, stuff like that. It's really good with Days, especially because the less lands they have, the harder it is for them to pay 1 for stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much the main deck. Time to go over the sideboard. So what I think the toughest part about making a sideboard for Grixis Delver and Legacy is that I want 25 cards in my sideboard. There are just so many cards that are really good and pretty important. So we do the best with what we can with these 15. I think they're pretty flexible. So what we play is, or what I play, is 2 Surgical Extractions. Surgical is really good against lands. It's really good against Dredge and stuff like that. Any graveyard-based deck, Reanimator. And it's really important because lands is probably one of the worst matchups that you have. And if you get rid of their Life from Alone, then they can't really Wasteland lock you. And it's harder for them to kill you with Thespian Sage Dark Depths because you can, pick it apart easily with 1 Wasteland if they can't just keep Life from Aloneing back Thespian Sage and Dark Depths. So Surgical is really essential in the sideboard. If you got 2 Pyroblasts, Pyroblast is really good against Miracles. It's really good against the Mirror because you can counter any of the cantrips and you can also kill a Delver with it. And it's just a really, really versatile card. It's good against most of the combo decks. There's almost no combo decks in Legacy that don't play blue. So having something like Pyroblast helps a lot. Being good against all the blue fair decks and being good against all the combo decks too really helps. And we have one of my favorite cards in the sideboard here, which is Baleful Strix. Baleful Strix doesn't seem very intuitive to Delver's game plan because it's not really pressuring your opponent. It's a more dirtily mid-range card, but it's really good against the matchups where you care less about killing them immediately and care more about grinding out the game for value. So against stuff like the Mirror or Eldrazi, for example, this card does everything that you want. You play it, it replaces itself, and then it trades for one of their best threats, which is basically the best thing that you could ask for. In matches where you board out cards like Force of Will, because it's pretty, card disadvantageous to spend 2 cards to deal with any 1 card, you bring in stuff like Baleful Strix, the one of Painful Truths, just cards that help you get ahead with card advantage. And Baleful Strix helps with that a lot. While also, you can kill them with it as flying. It may take a while, but it's a really good card in a lot of different matchups. Good against all the Tarmogoyf decks. Good against Eldrazi, of course. Mirror, as I already said. So yeah, I love the Baleful Strix. It's been really good for me. And then here we have 9 one-ofs. We've got your Ancient Grudge. Ancient Grudge is really good against Chalice of the Void. That's basically the main reason that it's in the sideboard. It's also good against, these Stoneforge Mystic decks. But you can kill Stoneforge with a Bolt or a Dismember, and you can get rid of, their Batterskull with a Cabal Therapy or something. So it's really, really just for any deck that plays Chalice of the Void, because Chalice on 1 hits almost 90% of this deck, all the really important cards. So it's pretty hard to beat. So we need Ancient Grudge for that, and it also just has other applications against random various artifacts. We've got a couple of cards for the fair matchups, and 1 Forked Bolt and 1 Dark Blast. They're great for the mirror. They can kill Young Pyromancer, especially Dark Blast. You can recur it, kill every Young Pyromancer that they ever cast, as well as Delvers. So it's really good at that. It's good against Elves, Death and Taxes, just any fair matchup. Same with the Forked Bolt. I think it's really defensible to maybe play another Dismember in one of these slots, because Dismember is so good against Eldrazi and so good against just any Goyf deck. But I've been really liking these just because they're so good against all of the 1 toughness creatures played in Legacy. It sucks that Dark Blast can't kill something like a Deathrite Shaman, but against everything else, it's really good. And Forked Bolt is it's pretty flexible. It's like a 5th Lightning Bolt sometimes if you need to kill them with it, but also it can kill multiple creatures with 1 toughness and can kill 1 creature with 2 toughness. So it's a really good card. So here we have for the more grindy matchups like Miracles, we have 1 Sulfuric Vortex, 1 Painful Truths, 1 Engineered Explosive, 1 Winter Orb, and 1 Pithing Needle. These 4 cards are essential to beating Miracles because game 1 you have a lot of cards that aren't really high impact against them. You have your Dismember, which only really kills sometimes it kills a Monastery Mentor, best case scenario. It could kill a Snapcaster Mage or something, but it's not great. You just have a lot of cards that are pretty, unimpressive against them. Daze isn't great because they play around it a lot. Force of Will is okay, but it's not insane. You keep it in against them because you have to counter their Terminuses and some spells you can't really beat. But you just have a lot of cards that aren't great in your main deck, so we have to have a really hard-hitting impact cards in the sideboard. Painful Truths is great because it's hard for them to counter with Counterbalance and Top in play. And similarly, and it just is the only card in our deck that gives us actual card advantage. We have a lot of cards that are 1-for-1s like Brainstorm and Ponder and Chitaxian Probe, but Painful Truths, you play it 1 card, it gives you 3 cards, which is a really powerful and hard effect to find in Legacy. We've got the 1-of Sulfuric Vortex, which it's good against, Miracles, of course, just because it's hard for them to remove and deals them 2 damage recurringly. So it's a threat that it's hard for them to counter under Counterbalance, and it's hard for them to remove, and with the Terminus or something, and it'll just kill them. It's also good against decks like lands and any deck that's trying to gain life. So sometimes I bring it in against Death and Taxes just because it's really good against Umazashite and Batterskull. But this is one of the newer ones that I've been trying out. And just to go back to Painful Truths, it's also really good when I board into the game plan I was talking about, boarding out Force of Wills and boarding into a little bit more of a mid-range deck with a lot of value cards. It's really good at that plan. So the Winter Orb is there just really only for Miracles. You can sometimes bring it in against decks like Shardless Bug just because they use their mana a lot. It's okay against lands, but not really because they have Mox Diamond. So if they get to untap 1 land and their Mox Diamond every turn and you only get to untap 1 land, they can start locking you out with like a Rashad and Port, and it could get you even further behind. So a card that seems like it might be good against miracles, or sorry, might be good against lands, is actually kind of poor against lands a lot of the time. And here we've got the Pithing Needle, which is one of the most flexible cards in the sideboard. It has a lot of applications as far as Legacy goes, but it's really there to deal with Sensei's Divining Top. So Miracles is such a close matchup where any little edge we can get, we want. And if their deck isn't using top every single turn, then they're functioning much worse than they could probably be. So Pithing Needle is just a fantastic card to have as a one of. Some lists play even more, which I understand because it's really good. And can just deal with Wasteland if you need to from a lands deck, which isn't insane because you have your own Wastelands and that's your only way to deal with them making a 20/20. But you can also just name Thespian Stage with it. It's just a really, really flexible card, and it's really valuable in a lot of matchups. So that's why I play one of those. And here we have an extra copy of Cabal Therapy. The Cabal Therapy is there mostly for all the combo matchups. That's where it shines the most, definitely, because you can just name something blind most of the time, and just like a card that would kill you. Like, let's say you cast it, you don't know their hand, and you name Show and Tell, because if they have a Show and Tell, you're likely dead. And they might even have to counter it because you don't have to name until after it resolves. So it's just a really good flexible card, mostly for all the combo matchups. But it's also really good against Eldrazi. At least I found it to be really good against Eldrazi because, as I said before, it's hard to counter all of their threats. So having something like Cabal Therapy to get rid of Reality Smashers or Thought-Knot Seers before they cast them is really great. And last but not least, we have one Engineered Explosives. Engineered Explosives is a tech that a buddy of mine told me about before the Open in Philly. That was when the Eldrazi decks were really popular, and it's really good against Endless One and really good against Chalice. It's one of the only answers besides Ancient Grudge or Counterspell to deal with Chalice of the Void in the deck. And also, it just has a lot of other applications. It's good against Death and Taxes. It's good against Elves. It's good against the Mirror. It's definitely one of the most flexible cards in the sideboard. And it seems kind of unintuitive for a format like Legacy. It's like a modern all-star, pretty much. There's a few Legacy decks that play it. But I think it's been gaining popularity more and more lately. It's just really flexible. It can kill almost anything in a lot of matchups. Because most of the cards that people play in Legacy generally cost between 1 and 3. So you can play it on 2, kill some Tarmogoyfs. It's just really, it's a really good one to have. So yeah, there's my list. Been championing it for a really long time, and it's definitely one of my favorite decks to play ever. I really like it. Hope you enjoy the list, and I hope you enjoy the videos even more. Thanks.